Hello, and welcome to Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite Size Podcast. How are you? So, I'm very excited for the month of December. I have got practitioners with me, and today we've got Stephen Judge. And Stephen is a naturopath in Sydney. He's in Surrey Hills. I don't actually know where Surrey Hills is. I'm sure I could find it on that. But anyway, he works in person and online in an integrative practice, and he's been in practice for the last 6 years. Now, he mainly works with people in the gut and mental health realms. I saw you recently at an NHAA thingy, day symposium, whatever you want to call them, on the Gold Coast, and at the beginning of the year. And at the time, you said that you really started refining your practice. And the people that listen to this are slightly newer to practice generally. And so I thought today, if you don't mind, we'd talk about that, your practice and how you work and how you see your people, because it's always good to find these things out about other practitioners. So thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, Geraldine. I think I said to you literally in the past, particularly the last 12 months, I've really refined like my order of operations, so to speak, and how I, approach treatment plans with people and how I kind of, sequence the steps of what we have to do first with patients, and like obviously to make it easy and effective for them, but also to make it easy and effective for me in practice and not feel like I'm trying to do 10 million things at once, and get the most out of my time too, so I don't burn out. So I've kind of been able to refine my system by getting burnt out a lot and learning what I need to refine.
That's not the best way of discovering, is it? Is to actually burn out to refine. It's probably easy to start with the refined system and then avoid the burnout totally.
But so I'm happy to share that, because I guess, as amazing as my education was, getting into private practice, like I was kind of flying blind a bit. Like, I'm not sure what anyone else's experience was like leaving college, but I wasn't really taught systems, so to speak, of, how to practice in clinic. Outside of what the systems in student clinic are very different. They're more set up to assess us, not really in a practical way of how we really need to do it in the real world when you're back to back and you're busy and you need to be time efficient. And so happy to share that.
Oh, totally. That's what because it's one of the things that I educate about a lot, is the fact that in college they can't do it any other way. The lecturer has to assess the person. They have to be there. They have to come in. There has to be P2s who can listen in so that they can learn as well. And so, it's totally different coming out into the real world. You haven't got a receptionist to book in the appointment, to take the money. You haven't, you haven't got other people to go, what about this and what about that? And I thought about this, and everybody sit around and talk about it. They're just not there. So how did you start refining yours? Where did you notice first the changes happening?
I guess how I started refining my systems. So look, I started off practicing on my own in a room, doing everything myself. And then I got invited into this medical center. So I do have the luxury of a reception team, which I pay for, obviously. But if I was still, I always think, well, if I was on my own call, I would definitely be hiring a VA and getting payments up front through an online system, So there's that first. But in terms of refining my systems with treatment plans and how I approach it in clinic, I guess I realized that, I guess I made this huge mistake of assuming, big mistake I made was trying to, I would project a lot of my own financial insecurities onto people and assuming in the moment what I think they could afford in terms of testing and supplements. So in my mind, I'd be sitting there thinking, they'd benefit a lot from food biocompatibility testing or microbiome testing or whatever, because I do have a bit of a focus on testing in my practice, which we can get into. But a big mistake I would make was, based on what they were telling me, assume in the moment the one thing that they would probably like without even actually asking them. Which seems silly when I think back on it, that it took me this long to figure that out. But so, because testing is a big part of my practice, essentially what my process now has come down to is, following your lead in a workshop I did with you, the first 15 minutes particularly is just listening, holding the space, getting all the data, getting all the info. And I have clients do a pretty comprehensive new client intake form before they come in, which I'm a huge fan of as well. But once we hit the 25, 30-minute mark of the 1 hour initial appointment, my phrasing to people is essentially, look, thanks for all, I say to people, what do I say?
That's all right. You're under pressure. You're on a podcast. So
So I'll get to that point and I say, look, this is what I say. So I say to people, I've got my own ideas around what could help and all that kind of stuff in terms of treatment and testing. But just to clarify and triple check, just so we're on the same page, I'd just like to clarify with you, what are your major priorities that you'd like help with from me, at least to begin with? Yep. So it's like that phrase, it's like, because I asked that question on the form, but 50% of the time by the end of the appointment, there's a different priority that's come out, so, and it's so that when I'm listing their goals on their plan, it's directly related to what they've just said.
Yep.
So I asked them that question and also kind of plant a seed, at least to begin with, as in we can't do everything at once. So I use those exact words. And so from there I go, okay, cool, note that down. And then I basically said from there, the phase I move into next within the appointment is I say to people, so look, there are a handful of foundational treatments that we can get onto straight away, which I will lay out for you. But before I do that, I just want to run you through just a few things about potential underlying factors that might be involved with what's going on for you. And then I just want to lay out for you all the different testing that's available to you if you want to go there, and how I would prioritize that.
Oh, brilliant. So you're seeding them, aren't you? You're seeding, as I always talk about, you're seeding them into what the possibilities are, but you're not having it as a draconian situation where they have to do these things. It's their choice.
Absolutely.
Because they feel in control.
Exactly. So I do like my kind of treatment plan document, which I'm happy to share with people. It's just, 1, whatever they've told me, 1, improve digestion, 2, improve energy, whatever they've said. Mm-hmm. But then just to kind of broaden people's understanding of, the underlying reasons of why they're feeling that way, and also to use the underlying reasons to link to the testing, why the testing's helpful. I have a little spiel on underlying factor number 1, which is pretty much everyone, gut dysbiosis and leaky gut, and a little link to information about that. And there's a little spiel on HPA axis dysfunction. That's on pretty much everyone's plan too. Whatever the reasons are, it's like a whole collection of potential underlying issues. And so I just give people a little quick spiel about that for about 2 minutes, what those things mean. And so they can go learn more about it. But then I use those underlying factors to then link them down to the testing area and say, look, okay, so there's a whole bunch of testing you could do. And I'd say for everyone, at a minimum, I do need blood work. I need pathology. Yeah. So on my intake form, I've got a section on my intake form that says, have you had blood testing in the past 6 to 12 months? If you have, please upload them here or email them to me. I will review these before you come in. So if they have done that within the initial appointment, I've just got a little note ready to go of like, look, I've reviewed your bloods. Thanks so much for that. This is what was missing that I really need. And I will either write them a letter myself to take to GP, or they can pay for it themselves. I give them that option. Beyond the blood testing, so I have my own personal order of operations now with what testing I do prioritize with people. So for about 90% of people, my priority test, regardless of what people are coming in for, is the food biocompatibility testing. Because I've just become a huge fan of that test in general. It's very effective, but it sets up a stage of accountability for people, really working with the diet in that much detail.
Yeah.
And it kind of, it almost forces them to have to like modify their diet.
Yeah.
Because I find if people aren't willing to do that, the treatments are not very effective, and yeah, it's just messy. So, but I do say to people, but look, if we're not going to do the food testing, we'll do a diet diary instead. But I give them the choice.
Yeah.
These days, to be honest, most people go with the testing. They love the idea of food testing. They love the specificity and the individualization of it. And I just say to people, honestly, I get amazing results. Take the guesswork out, take the anxiety out of guessing, just test.
And it's really easy because you've got alternative foods. So,
Yeah.
I mean, some people won't do it. That's fine. I do the IgG testing, off you go for your bloods.
Yeah.
And then I have to think up the alternative foods.
Yes.
They're not on it, which is fine. But, we need one or the other from these people so that they have the alternatives. It's not just, you can't have gluten anymore.
Yeah, I don't kind of go there with people unless they're like some hectic autoimmune person. I'll say, look, I hate being that person, but at a minimum, just be mindful of the gluten, but otherwise just test.
Yeah, that's me too.
Yeah. I say to clients, I'm probably considered a bit lax for a naturopath, to be honest, but I think they appreciate that.
But I think it gets really hard for people. It's really confronting. They are on what they consider to be an okay diet, but to us, it's not an okay diet. Schnitzels aren't an okay diet. Deep fried food isn't an okay diet. And that, I thought I was on a pretty good diet before I became a naturopath. And I used to love to bake. Don't do that anymore. So, there's all sorts of things. I thought I had a good diet. I thought I was feeding my children a good diet. And so it wasn't until I became a naturopath that I discovered all these other things.
Oh, me too. My studies, I was like, oh shit. Okay.
No, to be given a list, don't worry. To be given a list of this you can't have and this you can have, either with the biocompatibility or IgG testing, means that your client can go, right, I can't have steak, but I can have chicken. Off I go to the supermarket. Just going, you can't have something, silence, just ruins their diet. What are they going to do? They're not going to do it and they're not going to come back. So, it's just...
I personally, I have that Clean Life, that recipe.
Oh, yeah.
And, because there is profit involved in using that test, I also offer people, I use their results to generate individualized recipes.
Perfect.
Ready to go at their follow-up. And they love that, cool, individualized test and recipes, brilliant. But yeah, I have noticed that, in my experience, it has the food first approach, whether or not you do a diet diary or a food test, it does filter out people who don't really want to do the work. I've noticed. They get, I didn't want to look at my diet, and you never hear from them again. And I'm in a place now where I'm fine with that, because otherwise it just becomes, people come in, it's kind of the mindset of well, will these supplements work? Will this work? And it's kind of like, people have to understand that they will work, but if you're addressing other parts of your diet and lifestyle, they'll work. And again, early on in practice, you put so much pressure on yourself and to kind of want to help and fix people, and it's your responsibility with the supplements. And that was my experience anyway, but I realized I really needed to work from the beginning with food. And I've just found the testing angle just takes a lot of the guesswork and the anxiety from the client and yourself. And the results just work. The results I get are incredible. So, it's order of operations is cool, I need bloods. If you've had them, here's my summary of them so far, and here's what we need moving forward. Or some people don't need any because they were quite comprehensive. Other people who haven't had blood tests in the past 6 to 12 months, I'll say, look, I do need bloods. I can order anything you want privately, but it's all out of pocket. So what I'm happy to do rather is write you a referral letter to take to GP, see what we can get through Medicare. Anything they won't do, which I think is crucial, then I can set up privately. That is helpful to people, because it is, if you're going to pay for everything privately, it kind of adds up a lot. So I do, and so I've got a referral letter template, which again, happy to share with people. It's kind of influenced by Rachel Arthur and a few other random people. I've just kind of made my own little spiel. And I do preface to people look, but just a warning though, the letter can be taken one of three ways by your doctor. They'll either be really into it and very supportive and happy about it and want to do more than I've suggested. That can happen.
Yep.
Then there's a neutral kind of response from the doctor, like, oh, okay, whatever, I'm not really into this, but I'll do it all. It's like, okay, great, that's what. Third potential response is they're really not into it, and the patient's made to feel a bit stupid, and what are you doing with this, and blah, blah, and then they won't do any of it. That's pretty rare where they don't do it at all, I would say. And this is just from feedback from certain clients. And I get a variety of feedback from all three. But I do just warn clients, because if you don't warn them and they go in and they get this rousing, it can be quite a traumatizing experience for the client. They're not aware of like these dynamics, these unknown dynamics between naturopaths and GPs. So I just warn them about that. But I'd say to them, look, but let the letter do the talking. It's totally justified. It really just depends on how the certain GP feels about naturopathic and integrative medicine, about getting a letter. Like, it really just depends on the date they're having.
I don't use a letter. I don't think I've ever sent a letter. I think I've sent a letter once.
Really?
Because I put it in the plan. So I'm writing, so I'm saying to the person, so we've, got the loss of hair, we've got the exhaustion, So we're really thinking about your thyroid testing. Mm-hmm. And so I will write, symptoms may indicate thyroid problems, especially with your age. Ask GP, and I'll put a question mark, TSH, T3, and let your GP. And so mine is all that. So the GP, they come back and they go, oh, the GP was lovely about it, because I've written it as though it's the GP's idea. But that's from nursing training. So we're actually, one of our very first lectures in nursing training was how to get the doctor to do things for you. Can you believe it? It was actually a lecture.
That's part of naturopathic treatment.
It's part of nursing. So, I mean, it should be part of naturopathic treatment, really, how to get somebody to do something for you. But, the hospitals are a very big place, and you need things done, and you need them, and you need people not to go off on one. So, one of our first lectures was how to get the doctor to do things for you.
Yeah, nice. And look, I have had pretty good luck. Like, maybe it's because of my little banner. It's like, oh, I'm in a medical center, and that is some sort of perceived legitimacy or something. I don't know. But, over the years, I've made connections, haven't even actually spoken to them, but just doctors who have said to the patient, oh, I love this, stick with them, I'll do it. So I just keep them in my little tab and I send people to them.
Yeah.
Totally. They'll be supportive. So I guess, I know some practitioners just don't bother and just will do everything privately, but that's kind of worked for me.
Yeah, I like the combo, because I just think they'll get, you're not considered to be their main practitioner, government-wise, the GP is. So, and the GP won't order anything, can't order anything. I can't order lots of things, it's not allowed, but they will not order anything they do not understand.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Like, this letter I do have, it's nothing, like the testing is all basics.
Yeah.
Like, thyroid, I will put TSH and thyroid antibodies. I will not put anything in between, or RT3, just, for the obvious. And I put a little note saying, I'm aware that some of these may not meet your MBS criteria. So-and-so is willing to pay out of pocket if necessary. But I'm not putting zinc and copper on there, not putting RT3. It's just like blood count, B12. The main stuff I want at a really basic level with people, at least to begin with, is like the full blood count, the, electrolytes, liver, B12, iron, basic thyroid, blood sugar, cholesterol, vitamin D. They're the ultimate basics I want. And I just say to people in the appointment, and I say to people, look, we need to start with bloods, because I don't want to miss anything really basic, particularly at like a blood count or nutritional level. If there's something really off there and we correct it, that one thing could have such a traumatic impact on your health.
Yep.
I don't want to get into all this fancier stuff and other testing without missing the basics. And we also will look at the bloods very differently. Things might be within their bracket, but they might be very suboptimal from our perspective, and it gives us clues. So I explain this all to people, and said, they're like, cool, I'll definitely get that letter and I'll really push my GP, and if not, I'm happy to pay for it,
Yep. Which is great, which is what we want. I mean, we really want to work with other other modalities. We don't want to try and be a one-stop shop. We need to be able to share the client, get other opinions, other options, and the GPs appreciate it when we do it
So I
nice.
guess so again, it's like getting to this testing section. It's like because I've got a template ready to go and kind of run people through what their options are. And I'll have my thing of spiel about the blood testing, whatever their situation is with that. And then it's, again, majority of the time food testing. And because I'm predominantly 90% of the time these days seeing pretty chronic gut issues, I know we all see gut stuff, but, it's I think I've definitely narrowed my niche into that area with like SIBO and, everything on the spectrum of gut microbiome. My order of operations is bloods, food testing, and then I drop, information about microbiome testing that's available to people. So, and I say to people, look, the people coming to see me in particular are like really sick, like chronic gut stuff. So these people are just ready to do anything.
Yeah.
So like I said earlier, the mistake I realized I made over the years was assuming what people's financial situation would be. And you know what, it's crazy thinking back. So I would only mention one thing and not give them any idea of anything else that was available. Now I'm saying to people, look, food testing would be my priority. If you wanted like the magic combo, so to speak, really nailing this, you also have microbiome testing available to you. But if you needed to prioritize something based on finances, I would go with the food first and the bloods. That's plenty to work with. You will, in my experience, feel a lot better. And we can visit microbiome later if we feel like we need to. That's exactly what I say. But the huge majority of people, before I even finish speaking, just look at the menu and go, I'll do both.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so when I started actually having this document and going through it and saying, look, here are your options, but you don't have to go this far, particularly if budget's an issue. But majority of people just stop me without even finishing and say, no, I'll do all of that.
Yeah.
That excites me. Yep. So that's been really eye-opening for me. And again, it seems kind of silly that it took me that long to go, I've actually just showed people rather than assumed.
They've prioritized their health by seeing you in the first place. They've prioritized their health by making that first commitment to come and see you. And I was exactly the same. And I mean, I work from home and I'd be like, oh, I'm worrying, you don't have to take all these things. You don't have to do all of this. And then I'd see them out the door and they'd be climbing into their brand new Merc. And I'd be like, duh.
Totally. Oh my gosh.
Why was I even sitting there like that? It took me ages to figure out that, you offer them as an option. I always just say there's this one. I don't actually have the price, but that's a really smart move, having them listed as a price. I have a brochure and I say it's this one. And then they will say, how much is that? And then I'm generally like, oh God, it's some stupid number. It's like 289 or something. And I can't remember. So then I remembered to start writing them down. They're actually on my receipt pad. So I could turn it over and go, oh, that one is, and I would have the prices. So now, of course, I've got them on my computer, but back in the day, I was like, oh, how much are they? But
So, that order of operations is, okay, cool, we need bloods, then I definitely prioritize food. Microbiome, it's the magic combo, but we can go there later if we need to budget. And some people do only do bloods to start with, and that's fine. We still get started with a diet diary and a few foundational treatments. The bloods give us a lot of info to go off the next appointment, whatever people choose to do. But just planting the seed of the order of operations for them and what's available to them in the future has been helpful, because people come back to you at some point like, oh, I actually want to do that now. Cool, set it up. And they've got the document on them to refer back to. And some people, for whatever reason, again, even though I'll say my preferred order of operations in this, if I can sense they're like, I don't know, a gut microbiome obsessed centric person, I'll say, but for you, microbiome might be worth doing first. Some people, look, because I do work a lot with mental health too, I do attract a lot of the copper, pyrrole kind of crowd. So they usually come in knowing what they want to do. So with, again, the other testing I use a lot of is hair tissue mineral analysis.
Yeah.
and I'll privately order zinc copper profile blood testing. Okay. So for these very specific people, I will not have food testing microbiome up there. So I will say, look, to really nail that area for you, I need the hair tissue mineral analysis as a priority and the zinc copper profile and all your basic bloods. And then I'll say future, but I would encourage, I mean, with all that stuff, you got to heal the gut anyway. So I would encourage you to go there at some point, but we'll start here for you. So it just depends. But because gut and mental health is predominantly what I'm seeing. Like those, in terms of fancier, like functional testing, that's 95% of all I do. It's food testing, microbiome, and hair tissue mineral analysis. That's it, really.
Yeah.
Very rarely other types of tests, but that's, because it's all.
We could be twins. That's pretty much what I do as well.
Well, I say to people, even people coming in with endo or something hormonal, I say, look, at the end of the day, I said, yeah, I've got access to all the fancy hormone stuff. But at the end of the day, we have to heal your gut and your nervous system first.
Yeah.
And people really get that. And they go, oh, yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my approach. So it's the kind of half hour of note taking and whatever, and asking them what their priorities are. And then going, cool, bunch of foundational things we can do, but just want to run you through your options. With testing and the underlying factors and stuff. And people will pretty quickly tell you what they want to do. So you kind of set that up, get their hair, order their test, whatever. Occasionally people will say, I'm not sure and I want to think about it. I say, that's totally fine. I'll lay that all out for you and you go back to me. And then, so that process I've got now, it's just taken the pressure off a bit from the college style of how I was taught to do an appointment, where you had to kind of think on the spot of how you were going to deal with everything and nail the prescription in that moment. It's too much pressure. And I catch myself sometimes doing it. I'm not perfect. I have my moments with people where for whatever reason, I'm like, oh, I want to figure this out now. And I just kind of take a deep breath, go back to my process. So it's good to have a formula down for you to remind myself of, because I do catch myself sometimes running off and going back into those old patterns. So when I say foundational treatments, with my experience with mostly seeing chronic gut stuff and mental health, it's kind of like at this point, obviously we're going to use all the testing to individualize treatment, but at this point, majority of people leave my room with a prescription for PHGG, a bit of zinc, a bit of magnesium. A note about have some iberogast on hand for flare-ups. It's just this basic stuff that they're all going to need regardless of testing. Or if they have had bloods and come through on their intake and their D or B12 is terrible, cool, straight onto that. And it's just, that's all I'm doing at the beginning, the total basics. But again, people, report starting to feel better. It's just taken the pressure off, having to, get too detailed to prescriptions and prescribing at that initial appointment, because I felt like that was very much the college experience for me.
With the college experience as well, then they're assuming that you might, if you're lucky, get that person back once before your semester ends, before that 13 weeks is over. And so they try to get you to do everything, and everyone's there helping you. So of course you've got like 5 brains to discuss this person. So of course you can come up with some answers after that first appointment and some good ideas, because you've got 5 brains on it. You've got your 2 P2s, there's yourself, there's the person dispensary, there's the lecturer. So all of these people are all willing to give their comment. And it's not realistic. That's totally
and I guess I wish I did. I guess the things I wish I was taught leaving college and, just figuring it out on my own and how to run a private clinical practice was, I personally think there does need to be more of an emphasis on us using bloods effectively. So much gets missed. I find so much in blood testing, like just the basics, nothing crazy, like that really you know, the doctor hasn't tested for it, or they just haven't had tests ever, or they've had tests and its stuff is really suboptimal, but in the brackets, no one said anything, and you correct it, and it really makes a huge difference for people. It's a really nice, I do emphasize people use bloods for all their patients if they can, at least the basics.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wasn't really, I was taught pathology at college, but I wasn't really taught a streamlined approach to, well, how should you do this in practice? You know, should you do it for every patient and try to communicate with the doctor and all that kind of stuff? I had to really figure that out on my own.
Yeah, totally. So we're going to leave it here for today. And I'm going to get you back in again very, very soon to talk about some of that burnout experience as well, because I think we've got a really good process happening now of what you do to go through that conversation, then the questions, the testing, and to get them out, which is what I'm always banging on about, because I know, having lectured and seen the difference, because when I try to remember back all those years, it was a long time ago to remember back to having a lecturer there and having your P2 in the room and all the rest of it. And so then to be lecturing it and then to see and then go, hang on, I don't do that anyway. This is what I do. I haven't done it like that ever. So it's been great to talk to you, and I will get those the letter off you if you don't mind, and I will put them in the show notes from today. So everybody out there, and they will be on my website so that you can get those. But thank you so much, Stephen. It's been wonderful to speak to you today, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks, Geraldine. Pleasure.